All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back with another podcast. This is episode number 6, following the NFL draft, which is about a week and a half ago. A lot has happened, and a lot has changed in the NFL landscape, and we just wanted to get right into just an analysis of the draft. So, Trevor, we can start off with real quick, just asking you, who do you think had the best draft?
This was a great draft overall. I actually thought it was entertaining to watch because there was a lot going on. Who had the best draft is a tough question because there are, in my opinion, three or four teams had a very, very, very good draft. But I'm going to go with the Baltimore Ravens, who had the overall best draft. This might come as a little bit of a surprise. Miami will be a popular pick. I'm sure Cincinnati and getting Burrow is a popular pick, but I'm going to go with Baltimore because I think they got a steal in J.K. Dobbins, who will be the best running back in this draft class. Late in the second round, they got an excellent linebacker in Patrick Queen from LSU late in the first round, and I think an underrated receiver in this draft was Devin Duvernay from Texas, who only had one drop in his entire college career. I think he'll be a weapon that Lamar Jackson will utilize right away, and I think Baltimore overall had the best draft class because of that. I'm a Cardinals fan, very happy with their draft class and a couple other winners. I'm sure you'll go into depth about one of these teams, but I think the Browns and Cowboys also had excellent drafts as well.
Yeah, okay, nice. Well, I'll mention some of my winners, and people might not, agree with this necessarily, but I think that the Denver Broncos were definitely a big winner of this draft, and it's mostly because of their top half of their draft. I think the first two picks, getting Jerry Jeudy and KJ Hamler, were both really good
Mm-hmm.
pickups. Getting two
Mm-hmm.
receivers. Some people were surprised they took another receiver in the second round because they do have Cortland Sutton, but wide receiver depth is extremely important in today's NFL, and having a solid third receiver and even a solid fourth receiver is what makes a team
I agree.
really good. So, I think Jerry Jeudy is the best receiver in this draft class. So I really, really like that. And KJ Hamler was also a really solid pickup. He's extremely fast, had an unofficial 4.27 40. So he is really, really fast, and could
Wow.
also
Holy
be
crap. That is quick.
yeah, so he could also be a nice special teams returner or just make an impact on the offense right away. So I really like their draft. And I also, if we're talking about other winners, I also had the Cowboys as a winner. Um, I know their offense is already loaded, but getting CD Lamb was really nice. As I said,
Mm-hmm.
receiver depth is really important. And now, I mean, Dak Prescott, he's got to step up this year. This is, he has all the talent in the world, so we'll see what he can do with it. But I really did like their draft as well. Um,
Back to Denver real quick. I think
yeah.
Denver's had the most underrated offseason of every NFL team. They've had a
Oh, I agree.
great offseason.
Mhm.
Drew Lock showed promise at the end of the year, and we'll talk about it a little bit later on in the podcast. But I think you and I both agree that Denver is a sleeper pick to make the playoffs this year.
Mhm.
They've had a great offseason. Their offenses went from nothing to loaded. They have
Yeah.
two Pro Bowl running backs. They have a Pro Bowl wide receiver, a great couple of great wide receiver prospects, as you mentioned. So look out for Denver this year. They've had a great offseason.
Hmm.
Handing it back off to you here, Ryan. We're loser of this draft. I'm sure there's a couple options.
Yes, there are, and a lot of people are going to point to more conventional picks, like maybe the Packers or some other
I'm
teams.
going to
But
point to the Packers
okay,
100%. So go
but
ahead.
yeah, but no, I thought the Las Vegas Raiders,
Okay.
actually, I did not like their draft, and people might disagree with me, but I just did not think that drafting Henry Ruggs at 12 was the right decision, especially when you look at that offense and they have no primary weapons for Derek Carr to throw to. I mean, you have Darren Waller at tight end. I mean, you have Josh Jacobs, who's quite a good running back in the backfield, but they need that big bodied, just conventional receiver in Judy or Lamb. And they didn't get that. They went for the speedy guy who can take the top off the defense, which is great, but they still don't have that big guy. And they did draft Brian Edwards from South Carolina, who is quite a big body and could fit that profile. But he was drafted in the late third round. He's more of a potential pick. He's not necessarily a proven top tier receiver. So I just wasn't a big fan of what they did, and I still think they're gonna. I thought maybe they had a chance to make the playoffs this year with a good draft, but now I'm not really sure. because
And I'm
the
pretty sure
offense
their
has some
pick at
questions.
19, I forgot who they drafted in 19, but I'm pretty sure that was a bit of a reach pick too.
Oh yes, the corner from Ohio State. You're talking about
Oh,
Arnett.
Damon Arnett.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Damon
I
Arnett.
I did see that as well. And even the GM admitted, he said, he was really high on our board. We really wanted him, but we could have traded back and still gotten him. And it's like, if you know that, like,
If you know
and
that,
you
why pick
still
him?
and you still pick him, like, I don't know. So there were some questions about overdrafting some players and just drafting the wrong players. Maybe they'll prove me wrong, but I just thought this draft had some question marks. And then also, real quick,
Hmm.
I thought the Los Angeles Chargers had a questionable draft, and I'm kind of really specifically talking about their first pick at number 6. I just thought that was an overdraft. If they wanted Herbert, I feel like they could have traded down at the very least to 9, because the only other team really that could have gotten a quarterback behind them was
Hmm.
the Jaguars. And then um, they also got Kenneth Murray from Oklahoma, the linebacker, who was regarded as one of the best, if not the best, linebacker in this draft. But he is primarily a rusher. He blitzes the quarterback a lot. And the Chargers don't blitz the quarterback a lot. They don't really call blitzes because they have such good D line. They don't really need to call extra blitzes. So uh, I don't really know how he fits in that system, but we'll see. So those are my two main losers for this draft. What about you? What did you have for losers this
I
draft?
thought outside of the Herbert pick, the Chargers had a good draft, so I won't say they're the losers of this
Okay.
draft. One of my losers, obviously, the first one I'm going to go to is Green Bay,
Okay.
and I understand the Jordan Love pick a little bit more now after thinking about it. The initial knee-jerk reaction is, you traded up in the draft to get him, which makes no sense to me unless they knew somebody between, what was it,
It
27
was
and
26
30.
and 30.
I
Yeah,
think they were
27 and
30.
30.
Yeah, they moved up to 26. So I guess
Hmm.
someone in the 24, 25, 26, 27 range was going to take Love. I don't really know.
Hmm.
Um, the only reason I disagree with that pick is, one, I still think you can get 3 or 4 good years out of Aaron Rodgers. Two,
Okay.
it was a loaded wide receiver draft class. You look at T. Higgins was available at 26. Denzel Mims was available at 26. Michael Pittman from USC was available at 26. Green Bay should have taken a receiver in this draft class. It's as simple as that. This has been the best receiver draft class we've talked about in many, many years. And what's even worse is in the second round, they take a running back, whichever they have Aaron Jones at running back. Do they still have Jamal Williams? I forgot. I think
I
they have
think
Jamal
so.
Williams,
I
right?
think so. Hmm.
So those are two capable running backs. Aaron Jones had a great year last year.
Hmm.
He is a little injury prone, I get that, but for me, if you look at the receivers that were taken, and Mims was available when they had the second round pick. I think when they took Dylan at, I forgot what pick number it was, 52 or
I
something
think
like
I
that.
think you're right. No.
So for me, in the first 2 rounds of the draft, how do you not take a wide receiver? Their back half of the draft was a little bit better. But for me, and here's an interesting stat before I hand it off to you, because I know you
Okay.
you called the Jordan Love pick, so kudos to you on that one. Aaron Rodgers has thrown one touchdown pass to a receiver in the NFL drafted in the first round. In his entire career, one touchdown pass to a receiver who was drafted in the first round.
Wow.
Is
Wow.
that stat not amazing or what? That just shows
That's
you
unbelievable.
Aaron Rodgers can do it with anybody. And the fact that they passed up on a first round capable wide receiver, I don't get it. Second small loser is Chicago.
Okay.
Passing on, this is mainly the reason why I think Chicago is a loser of the draft. Taking a tight end in the second round when you have 15 tight ends on your roster makes absolutely no sense to me. They were in need of a safety. They missed Grant Delpit. They missed Antoine Winfield from Minnesota.
Hmm.
So that pick alone for me makes Chicago a loser in this draft. But yeah, Green Bay, surefire the worst draft of anybody, not even close.
Wow. And so, I mean, just kind of, you know, taking a look at Green Bay's draft, I don't disagree with you at all. They do definitely need receiver talent. I mean, after Devontae Adams, they really don't have much of anything, right?
I mean, when you're throwing to
So
a guy named Kumaro is his last name, you need receiver
yeah,
talent, and I don't
Valdez
understand it.
Scantling, right? You got to, yeah. So
Oh yeah. Valdez Scantling.
yeah,
He's a lot better.
there's a bunch of random undrafteds or late round picks who didn't really pan out. So yeah, no, they undoubtedly needed a receiver. Now the reason I thought they would get Jordan Love is not necessarily because I didn't think they didn't need a receiver, but I just felt that Green Bay wanted to plan for the future. And I know a lot of people prior to the draft were talking up Jordan Love, and they were saying, this guy has a lot of potential. Okay, and he could really come on
Mm-hmm.
as a strong quarterback prospect and develop into a really nice player. So I think Green Bay, obviously had him really high on their board, and they felt that now was the time to get their quarterback of the future. So now, really, we can't evaluate this pick for another 3 to 5 years because we need to see how Jordan
I
Love
agree. I
performs once he
agree.
becomes the starter.
I think
Now,
AJ Dillon was the worst pick of the draft for Green Bay. Their second pick was the worst pick of
yeah,
the
I,
draft, going
I,
with
I do
AJ
agree.
Dillon.
I think they should have gone receiver, especially with multiple receivers out there, especially Denzel Mims. I really like him out of Baylor. Was right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I really like him, and I think he could have fit really well with Devontae Adams in Green Bay. But they should decide not to go that route. So we'll see how this whole season unfolds. If Aaron
We'll see.
Rodgers
I
gets
agree with
jealous,
you. The love pick's going to be a bit of a project.
mm-hmm.
He's sort of in a similar spot Aaron Rodgers was in when Brett
He is.
Favre was playing in Green Bay.
Mm-hmm.
And Brett Favre didn't really mentor or help out Aaron Rodgers. He
He
kind of
didn't
just
like the pick.
left, went to
Yep.
Minnesota. Aaron Rodgers is known to be throughout his career a little bit of I'm not going to say a diva, but he's not the most friendly guy ever. He's not like a team favorite. I think that's
He's
gone better as the career's gone on. So will he be a warm, a father-like figure to Jordan Love? I don't think
mm-hmm.
he will. Do I think he's
Only
out of Green
tolerate him.
Bay? Do I think he's out of Green Bay? That's tough to tell. We'll see.
That's a really good question. So, do you think Aaron Rodgers will finish his career in Green Bay? Real quick.
Ultimately, no, I don't. I actually
Really?
don't
Okay.
think he will.
Okay.
I think this is going to be a repeat Brett Favre situation.
Okay.
I do think Rodgers will have at least another year or two in Green Bay. He might go to a Super Bowl ready team in a couple of
Okay.
years, whatever team that will be. I don't know.
Okay.
Rodgers only has one ring, so I'm sure he's in it these last few years to try and win a championship or as many
Mm-hmm.
championships as possible. They went 13-3 last year. Yes, that was inflated, probably a little overrated. They probably won't do that again this year. But Aaron Rodgers, I think now more than ever, is in the win now mentality, and passing up on the unbelievable depth of receiver talent in this draft, I think really hurt his chances of
Mm-hmm.
contending this year and contending in the year's future, at least in Green Bay.
At least in Green Bay. Yeah. No, I agree with you. So that'll be a really interesting situation to watch as the season gets closer and as the seasons unfold. Um, so kind of building off of that, I kind of want to look at the overall draft as a whole and kind of look at all the teams. And do you think that there were any teams that became uh, contenders for the playoffs because of their draft? Were there any teams that you thought, okay, now this team could make a push for a wild card spot?
Solely because of their draft, it's hard to say.
Okay.
I think Denver is the best example,
Okay.
getting, as you mentioned, a true number one receiver in Jerry Jeudy and a speedy, take the top off type receiver in KJ Hamler.
Mhm.
So I think Denver is the closest example of before the draft not being a playoff team to after the draft becoming a playoff team.
Okay.
Do I think it's solely because of the draft? No. They got Melvin Gordon in the offseason. I believe they also got Jarrell Casey on the defensive line from the Tennessee Titans
I think you're right. Yes.
in the offseason as well. So I think Denver's whole entire offseason has transformed them
They also got
from
AJ Boye. I think a lot of people forget
oh,
about
I
that.
forgot about that.
They
You're
got
right.
so that's a
So
really nice corner. Hmm.
Denver's done a complete revamp of the team this offseason.
They have. Yep.
I don't think their draft alone made them a playoff team, but I do think the draft certainly helped
Okay.
100%. I don't think any team became a playoff team before and after the draft
Yeah.
solely.
No, that's fair. And also, it's extremely difficult to evaluate that until you see the
Exactly.
players play on the
Exactly.
field, right? And we can't really count teams like the Cowboys, right? Who, they've always been a playoff contender even before their draft. So that's not really a
Right.
fair team to
Right.
put. But all right, no, I do agree with you that the Broncos. I mean, if anyone became a playoff contender, it was them for sure. Although I think you could also argue um, that Miami, if Tua pans out and plays to his full
Mm-hmm.
potential, you never know. I mean, there's 7 teams who can make the playoffs in each conference. So, I mean, stranger things have happened. Maybe he comes out fully healthy and just wreaks havoc
Mm-hmm.
on the AFC East. So I think maybe the Dolphins are someone to keep an eye on with the whole revamping of that team. But they're probably
Mm-hmm.
at least a year or two away. But that's also a team to keep an eye on for me. So,
Yeah,
um,
I agree. Miami's going to be probably one of the most intriguing teams to watch this year just
mhm.
because their entire roster is new.
Yeah, they revamped the
They
entire
have
roster.
so many new players, so many new faces. I love Brian Flores as a coach.
Hmm.
I think he's a great player motivator. I think he's just an excellent overall like person and leader in the locker room. And I think he'll be a very stabilizing presence for this Miami team that's very young and very new. And I don't think Miami makes the playoffs this year. I think they're a 7 or 8 win team
I
this year,
agree.
but I do think in a year or two they could be a playoff team. And
Mhm.
their division is much more open. Not saying they're going to win the division this year, but they could certainly beat the Jets twice, beat the Patriots twice, and beat Buffalo once. So you never
Yeah,
know.
no doubt. Yeah, no, it'll be the AFC East will be a really interesting division to watch, particularly
Mm-hmm.
who takes second place, because I think we all know Buffalo is the favorite there. So kind of going off of the AFC East a little bit, I also kind of wanted to move away from the draft and go back towards the quarterback situation we have going on in free agency and after the draft. So we still have uh, a starting caliber quarterback out on the market in Cam Newton, and it actually was just reported
Right.
recently that Cam Newton will not accept a deal unless it's for a starter position. So Cam Newton is out there looking for a starter job,
Wow.
and I just wanted to hear your thoughts on, do you think he'll be able to
Wow.
get a starter job this season?
Um, it's a really good question, and I'm going to go with no, and here's
Really?
why. I think the market has just dried up
Okay.
for starting. I mean, look, Cam Newton is certainly better than Daniel Jones, than Dwayne Haskins,
Former
than
MVP.
Gardner Minshew,
Hmm.
then even who's the then the New England starter, Jared Stidham. That's the most likely scenario
Yeah.
for me. If Cam Newton were to start for an NFL team, it'd be the Patriots.
Hmm.
I just think Cam Newton's is again similar to Aaron Rodgers, not a diva, but he's just always been a little bit up and down in terms of being an emotional roller coaster. He kind of reminds me of a Russell Westbrook in the NFL sense. The
Really?
fashion, he's flashy, big personality. He's can be either really really happy and encouraging at the post game press conference, or he can be like Westbrook and have a little attitude. And I just don't think teams see an aging Cam Newton as a starter value asset. Maybe New England for a year
Wow.
or two. I don't really know what New England's plan is,
Wow.
but I just don't think there's a lot of positions for Cam Newton. I just don't. I just don't see him playing starting anywhere unless it's New England.
Wow. And I think one statement that you said was really really interesting, and I don't think I agree with it. You said you mentioned that you talked about an aging Cam Newton as not a valuable asset, and I just think people are disrespecting Cam Newton a little bit. I mean, he was a former MVP, right? He was quite the player throughout his career, and he played his whole career in Carolina, and he was good until he got hurt with this foot injury last season. And he had a hurt shoulder during the 2018 season as well, so that really caused him to struggle throwing the ball accurately. But people forget how good he is, and he's 30 years old, right? There are quarterbacks who are playing late into their 30s and 40s. So I think if Cam Newton runs a little less, he plays a little safer, I think he could still be a positive quarterback for a lot of teams. But you are right. The quarterback market has dried up. There are not a lot of teams that are looking for a starter quarterback, especially after the draft. I mean, you take the Chargers off the board now. Dolphins are for sure off the board. The Bengals are off the board. So really, you are right. The only real place for him to start is New England. And it'll be interesting to see if New England would only view him as a short-term asset, right? And it's on a 1 or 2 year deal, or if they would commit to him with a 3 or 4 year
I think
deal. Because
I think New
he
England is in
is
a complete transitional rebuild, just with all the
okay.
pieces they've given up,
You don't think they
trading
do a
back in the
soft?
draft.
Okay,
I don't know if they're tanking for Trevor Lawrence or the number one pick, but I
I
definitely don't
can't.
think they're trying to win this year. I just don't see it.
Okay. I mean, I don't think I still don't think they're bad enough to completely tank for Trevor Lawrence, but
I
uh,
agree, but they did
uh,
lose a couple of pieces on defense, and they got no better on offense. They got worse on offense. They lost Brady and
yeah,
Gronk,
they did get worse on offense, and a lot of their draft picks were on the defensive side of the ball, especially at the linebacker position.
which leads me to believe they're trying to get a quarterback of the future in another draft, whether that's Trevor Lawrence, whether that's Justin Fields,
Okay.
whether that's somebody else. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, here's the thing. I think New England, you're right. Bill
Mm.
Belichick's too good of a coach. New England will not draft anywhere in the top five. I just don't think they're
No,
going to
not
be
top
that
five.
bad of a team.
Mhm.
But I do think they could be a top 10. They could have a top 10 draft pick next year.
Maybe.
And with maybe a couple trades and here, maybe a couple players drop, who knows? New England could end up with a high level quarterback next draft.
Mm.
That I just based on what they've done this offseason, losing Brady, as you mentioned, drafting heavily on defense. It just seems like they're trying to rebuild this year
Mhm.
and focus on getting a quarterback in the future. And it just doesn't. It could be Cam Newton. I could be wrong. It could be Cam Newton, but it just doesn't feel like it's a Cam Newton like situation.
No, you're probably right. I mean, it's gonna be really interesting to see how this Cam Newton situation plays out, especially because he only will accept a starter's job. I wonder if that will change as the weeks or months progress. I mean, the only other place for him is Jacksonville, probably. I
And I
mean,
think Jacksonville's getting one or two in the draft next year.
and even then, does he really want to start in Jacksonville with that team around him? I mean, I don't know if that's really an attractive
Exactly.
situation. I don't know if that helps his, stock as a player. So that'll be really interesting. But real quick on the Patriots, their draft was very strange, and even Patriots fans were questioning it. And maybe the question started to arise because they've lost so many players this offseason. These fans are starting to question the moves, even with Belichick being the coach and the general manager. I mean, they did draft a kicker from Marshall in the fifth round. Who, I mean, listen, you could get him undrafted, no doubt. There was no kicker in this draft
They
that
did lose
you
Goskowski, so
I mean, they did, but drafting him in the fifth round, I mean, that's
fair
an
enough. Fair
extreme
enough.
overdraft. They traded back multiple times in this draft, even with their 13 picks that they had going in, which was kind of a strange decision. I mean, they traded out of the first round. So a lot of questionable decisions. We'll see what happens, but it'll be a
It's
strange
hard
year
for me.
in New England.
It's hard for me to believe that New England doesn't have a plan. I
Oh,
don't think Bill Belichick is just going willy nilly. I've been sticking to it. New England's they're going through a hard rebuild and they're going to try and get a quarterback next draft, in my
okay.
opinion.
Yeah, I guess we will see how that goes with New England. It really will be a weird season not seeing them at the top. But I do also want to touch on the two other quarterbacks that were taken really fast. I mean, Andy Dalton was just signed to the Dallas Cowboys just yesterday on Saturday, a
Yeah,
one-year deal.
yeah.
I believe it was 3 million guaranteed and 7 million. He could potentially make up to 7 million. So
Interesting.
just a one-year deal. I mean, I'll just real quick say what I think. I mean, people who are saying Dak Prescott should watch out are crazy. I mean,
I agree.
it's Andy
I completely
Dalton.
agree.
I mean, this is just the same thing with the Brown situation, getting a strong, strong backup to have to hopefully continue to contend if your starter's out for a couple of games. So, I mean, I think it was a smart signing. Andy Dalton wanted to stay close to home. I think he lives in Dallas now, so I think he's happy about signing with there for a year, and I think it worked for both parties. So, I don't know what
Look,
you thought.
Andy Dalton knew his career in Cincinnati was over. Joe Burrow is going to be the guy.
Mhm.
And I mean, Dallas being a backup to the Dallas Cowboys is a good job to have. I
Great job.
mean, you have an excellent team around you in the hypothetical situation Prescott gets hurt or can't go.
Mhm.
You have an all-pro running back. You have an all-pro receiver and two really good young receivers in Gallup and Lamb, who they just drafted.
Mhm.
I think Andy Dalton is very happy with being the backup there. He will be the backup there. And who knows, maybe if Prescott has a really, really bad year and Dallas doesn't draft a quarterback or they want to decide to move on from Prescott, maybe Andy Dalton becomes the starter next year. You never know with Jerry Jones and the Cowboys. But I agree with you. Dak Prescott should not have to worry. He has enough to prove. He has enough to worry about on his mind, trying to get that big long-term contract. I don't think he's worried about Andy Dalton taking snaps from him. I think it was
Yeah.
a good move by the Cowboys. They're trying to win a Super Bowl. Jerry Jones is getting old. He doesn't have too many years left in him. They're trying to win a Super Bowl, so
Yep.
why not get the best backup in the league, arguably?
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. I mean, uh, getting a strong backup is, really important to hopefully continuing your
We
playoff
saw it with the
hopes. I
Eagles. I
mean,
mean, look what the
saw
Eagles
it with the
did.
Vikings as well. I mean, Case Keenum came
Hmm.
in for them, and I mean, took over as a starter really, and just kind of
Right.
led them all the way uh, deep into the playoffs. And then the last quarterback that also signed in the last few days was Jameis Winston. He went on a one-year deal to the New Orleans Saints, and no one was really expecting him to go here. I mean, even if people, and I know you were one of them, who
Hmm.
thought he would become a backup this year, weren't expecting him to go to a place like New Orleans. I mean, I don't know what you thought of this.
I
Was it smart for New Orleans? I mean, was it smart for
think it was a
Jameis?
smart career decision by Jameis Winston.
Okay.
He needed to get out of Florida. He went to Florida State, stayed in Florida, Tampa Bay, didn't work. He needed to get out of Florida, needed a fresh start. He's going to learn behind from one of the best quarterbacks and honestly a true pro in Drew
Mm,
Brees, who's had a career of being a great leader, a great teammate, a great person. Jameis Winston could probably use a little bit of maturity and a little bit of growing up. And he's going to learn behind one of the best pure passers in NFL's history. Drew Brees has the most passing yards of any quarterback in NFL history. I believe he has somewhere around the most touchdown passes of any quarterback in history. So Jameis Winston's going to learn behind Drew Brees for a couple of years. I think in a year or two, Jameis Winston will go somewhere as a starter, if not take over the New Orleans job in a couple of years as a
Mm,
starter. But I think he needed to take a back seat. He was not working out as a starter in Tampa Bay. And again, he's a great backup in the hypothetical situation that Brees can't go for a game.
mm.
You can definitely win games with that roster and Jameis Winston playing quarterback. We saw it last year with Teddy Bridgewater. They went 5-0 with Bridgewater as a starter.
Yes, they did.
So I think it's a great move by the Saints, a great move by Jameis Winston. All around, good job.
Okay. I mean, yeah, I agree. I think before people jump to conclusions about New Orleans, maybe some people think, "Wow, why would New Orleans do this? This is a really weird move." And I mean, you have Taysom Hill. Why would you sign Jameis Winston? I
Taysom
mean,
Hill is not a true quarterback.
no,
I
he's
mean,
not a
come
true
on, let's be real with
quarterback.
ourselves here.
He's pretty much a utility player. I mean, he's kind of that player who you have on your bench in baseball who can kind of play anywhere in the
Exactly.
field and get, make a play or two for you anywhere. I think, I mean, he's a nice piece, but yeah, you are right. He's not a quarterback. Jameis Winston, fantastic backup, has flashed the most potential out of anyone in any of the quarterbacks who were in free agency this year. He obviously threw for over 30 touchdown passes this past season, but also had over 30 interceptions. So I think going behind Drew Brees, like you said, will be fantastic for him, behind one of the best to
And
ever
he's
do it.
still,
And
yeah,
he's quite
he's still
young as well.
moderately young.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
he's not that
I don't know
old.
his age. Maybe he's 27, maybe 28, maybe a little older, maybe like
Right.
20, maybe like
He could have a very good back nine of his career if he
oh, no
takes this
doubt. Yeah. And
opportunity in stride.
I actually think, again, before people jump to conclusions about New Orleans, disagreeing with them signing Jameis Winston, I think New Orleans signed him because now, if they like what they see from him, either in practice or if in the event that Breeze gets hurt, he plays. I think that they will re-sign him to become their future quarterback. And I mean, you look at this roster,
I
and if they can
agree.
sustain
I
this
agree.
roster, very nice defense and very, very nice offense. So they have
Great
all the pieces.
offense.
So if Winston can get it together behind Breeze, limit the turnovers, and just start to play calmer and smarter, I think that there's a chance that this team got their new franchise quarterback in the future. So it'll be really interesting to see how it plays out. But Winston could very well continue his
Right.
career in New Orleans for a while.
People focus on the bad with Jameis Winston and the 30 interceptions, but he's a capable quarterback, and I think you
He
can
is.
win, especially in New Orleans. You can definitely win a lot of games with Jameis
Exactly.
Winston as your starting quarterback,
Hmm.
and that's not a joke. That's a serious statement. You can win a lot of games with Jameis Winston as the starter.
Yep.
And as you mentioned, New Orleans is a good of an offense as there is in the NFL. So
Oh, no doubt. Yep. So it'll be an interesting situation to watch. We got a lot of interesting quarterback situations to watch this season. And really quick, I think we maybe wanted to touch on some other sports. Maybe mention some of these plans that are going in place for some of these other sports.
mhm.
I know not a lot of people watch NASCAR, but it is something interesting to note that there is uh, some sort of sports entertainment coming back soon. On May 17th, NASCAR will be coming back in North and South Carolina. They're going to be racing on two tracks over the course of I believe it's 5 or 6 races. I could be wrong, but I do know that they're going to be racing on two tracks, trying to keep them close to a lot of the team's headquarters in Charlotte. Yeah, so no fans, obviously, but it's a good sign that something is coming back, and hopefully it's a sign that some of these other more socially distant sports, such as golf or maybe even baseball at some point, will be able to come back in the semi near
Right,
future. So that's
right.
some good news. So
I
and
mean, out of all
then
the sports, would I choose NASCAR to come back first? No. But I think
no.
big picture here, it's a positive thing for everyone to see that
Mm-hmm.
some sort of normalcy and reality is coming back to us.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that NASCAR has a planned date and a plan to hold out a season
Mm-hmm.
and or to have a season and to hold races is great, and hopefully it motivates other sports to get a plan together as well. So
Yep.
good for them.
No, I totally agree. And I mean, there's a quick update on the NBA as well. I mean, we got reports that NBA teams will be allowed in their team facilities and team practice facilities starting May 7th. And this is in states that have relaxed their stay-at-home orders. So I believe it's in just over half the states. So the majority of the NBA teams will be allowed or have already been granted access to their facilities. So that is another good sign. Hopefully, another small step towards hopefully finishing the season. I know LeBron James mentioned uh, that
I
he.
yeah, that's great.
Sorry, what'd you say?
My bad.
Wait a minute. Hold. Oh, there we go. Okay, you were just frozen for a second. I'm sorry about that.
I apologize.
But yeah, no. It's a good sign that the NBA is coming back. So I don't know if there's anything you wanted to add real quick. I know. Sorry, you cut out for just a second.
Um,
If not, that's fine. We
May
can just move on.
7th, they're opening up the practice facilities. How big of a step is that is that truly? Probably not a huge step, but it's a step in the right direction for the NBA.
Mm,
It shows that they at least have like the intention of finishing out the season by opening up practice facilities.
mm-hmm.
Um, I don't really know. They haven't really come out with much more outside of that in terms of when they want to start playing
Mm.
games again, I guess. So there's still a lot of things up in the air, but it's good to see that sports are at least trying to attempt to get back. And I'm happy. I hope the NBA comes back. The NBA is
Yeah, we
one
all
of the
hope it
most
does.
right. It's one of the most entertaining things to watch. So
No doubt, no
it's
doubt.
good to hear that they're planning.
Yeah. So we'll see how that goes over the next few weeks, and obviously we'll keep talking about any updates that come by. But I think Trevor, you wanted to finish up with some a quick little game going on with some NFL teams for next season. What did you have in mind?
Yes. So the NFL win totals, a lot
Mhm.
of sports books have come out with their NFL win totals for teams in the 2020 season. We don't have a formal schedule yet, but every team does know their opponents. I guess for a 16 game season, I don't really know how the 17 game season will change that very much, but every team does know who they're going to be playing in 2020. And I found a betting website that came up with some over under for team win totals. We're going to go through this relatively quickly just because there's a lot of teams, but I think in this episode of the podcast, we're going to be doing the AFC.
Yep.
And I think there's a lot of intrigue. I think the AFC is a little bit more intriguing this year than the NFC just because there's a lot of new faces in the AFC, particularly at quarterback.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So I'm going to start it off, Ryan.
Mm.
This is an alphabetical order, and just to give a brief over under, or
Okay.
if you think the team will go over and under, and a brief explanation why. So we're going to start with the Baltimore Ravens. This is according to lineupsbetting.com. The Baltimore Ravens are at 11.5 over under. 11.5 wins.
11 and a half wins. I think that they go over. I think they hit 12 wins on the season. 11 and a half is a very accurate number, but I think they hit 12 wins. I think some teams are able
Mm-hmm.
to slow down Lamar, but I think that their defense is just as good as it was last year. They had a really nice draft, have some nice running back in the wings, J.K. Dobbins, got some nice receivers. James Proche from SMU, really nice receiver. I think they hit 12 wins this season and win the division again.
I'm in agreement with you. I think they're going to go over 11.5. And I think for me, they didn't get worse from last year, and I think they even got a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
I think Lamar Jackson is going to be very, very motivated to become even better than he was last year, particularly as a thrower. We know what he can do as a runner, but I think that game against Tennessee, where I'm not going to say got exposed, but where he struggled, I think he's going to be very, very motivated this offseason to come back even stronger. I agree Baltimore's going to win more than 11.5.
Okay. Okay. Going on to the next team, we have the Cincinnati Bengals at 5.5 wins. Over under. What do you say?
I'm going to go under. And I
Wow,
understand they got
really?
Burrow.
Okay.
But Cincinnati still has a lot of issues on defense. They still have a lot of
Mm,
holes on that team. And again, as good as Burrow was in college, it is very hard to come into the NFL and have instant success,
mm,
especially in an offseason where he's not going to have OTAs. He's not going to be able to have a lot of preparation time with his teammates in person, throwing footballs to them, figuring out the scheme. He'll know the scheme, but just that the getting those reps in
just
practice, I
yeah,
think, will hurt
exactly.
him a little bit. And
Mm,
Cincinnati can't play defense yet. I'm going to say I think they'll be a 5-win football team, but I don't think they win. I think they'll be 5 wins exactly. So I'm going
okay.
under.
Okay. Um. Again, I think this line is very accurate, but I will go with the over on this one. I think that I agree with you. Burrow is going to have, kind of a difficult time, and people won't people don't really realize this. It's going to be tough for a rookie quarterback to come into a team like this with absolutely no defense. And they do have a really nice
Exactly.
offense. They got AJ Green, right? They have Tyler
Right.
Boyd. They have Joe Mixon.
They can score.
They
They
got
can
a couple.
definitely
They got a
score.
couple improved offensive line pieces, and they have T Higgins as well. So they do have some pieces, but I think that pushes them to 6 games. But I don't think they win more than that, just because they're in a very tough division. I mean, there's 3 playoff contenders ahead of them at the very least, so it will be tough for them to win more than 6 games. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, I agree with that. Except I think they'll win 5 games, so we'll see.
We will see.
Next team, the Buffalo Bills. Their over/under is 8.5 wins.
Oh, 8.5 wins. They will definitely go over. I think this line is
Completely agree.
low. I mean,
I agree.
they're now in a weak division, with the second most threatening team maybe actually being either the Dolphins or the Jets. Funny enough, um, but no,
Right.
I think the Bills hit 11 wins, maybe 12 wins. They're a really solid team, fantastic defensively. They got a couple defensive players in the draft. I think they got a couple DNs, which is really nice, and they also got Stephon Diggs. People forget about that. They have a really nice weapon there with John Brown, and so I think they're just really really well-rounded team. Especially if Josh Allen could take another step this year, I think they have more than 8.5 wins.
Completely agree. One of the most underrated head coaches in the NFL is Sean
Mm,
McDermott. He was in
mm,
the conversation for Coach of the Year last year. They kept both of their assistants, the offensive coordinator and the defensive coordinator. Neither of them left to go take a head coaching job anywhere else. I think
wow.
that's huge for stability and for Josh Allen's
Hmm.
growth. It was a and they got better, and their division got wide. I think Buffalo's going to win 11 games here. 12 seems like a little bit too much, but I think they're going to be a 10 or 11 win football team. I think they'll go 11-5. That's a fair estimate. So I'm
Yep.
definitely going over on that.
Okay. Okay. No, I completely agree. They will definitely go over. And now we get to another intriguing team here. We have
Ryan's
the
favorite.
the classic Cleveland Browns here. Will this be the season they break through and win more than 8 games? They have the odds are at 8.5 wins. What do you think? You think it's over or under?
I'm going over. I think this is a
Okay.
10 win football team. Um, as good as they got last offseason, they got even better this offseason. They
Mm,
got they drafted Wills, who is arguably the best offensive lineman prospect in this draft class. They got Pro Bowl level lineman. They got Austin Hooper, who had a great year at tight end last year. And then we look at defense. They addressed a need at safety. They got Grant Delpit, who I didn't even realize won the Thorpe. I think it was the Thorpe Award
Yep.
last year as being one of the best safeties in college football, and he
I think it was
fell
the
all the way to the middle of the second round.
I think it was the best DB in college
So
football actually. But
best
yeah,
DB, okay.
but still, yeah,
So I think he has an incredibly high ceiling. Myles Garrett will come back, hopefully play all 16 games this year.
he will.
I think this is a loaded Browns team. And you told me something a couple days ago about Baker Mayfield. I've always knocked Baker for him being a little immature, him being having a little bit of an attitude, him being needed to be humbled a little bit, if that made any sense.
Sure.
And you told me that he's been holding player meetings every week. He
Yep.
seems to be quiet. He hasn't done a lot of commercials. I think Baker Mayfield was humbled last year. And this is going to be an interesting comparison. You might laugh a little bit, but
Uh oh.
remember when Joe Burrow, the year before last year, he was playing the Fiesta Bowl against Central Florida, and he threw a pick six and got hit really hard by one of the Central Florida defensive linemen. He got like knocked to the ground.
I don't
You
remember
remember
that.
that? And then
No.
he talked about in that game how his entire mentality changed.
Really?
In that game against Central Florida, his entire mentality changed after that hit where he threw a pick six in the Fiesta
Wow.
Bowl. This was the year before their championship year, obviously.
Mm.
I think Baker Mayfield in that game against Nick Bosa on Monday Night Football, where he got harassed by the entire night, I think that game changed Baker Mayfield, and I think he will be a much better quarterback this year.
Maybe. No, I mean, I really hope so. And in regards to if I think the Browns will go over or under, I mean, it's really hard for me to pick the under. So, I mean, I really would have to go over just because there's so much talent on this team, so much potential. And now it all rests on the shoulders of Baker Mayfield. Can he deliver? This be his season where he breaks through and shows everyone that he is a starting quarterback in this league? I think it is his year. I think he's shown that now he's not messing around. I think he's gonna have the work ethic. I think he's gonna be the back on the practice field and the last one to leave. At least that's what I'm hoping.
Completely agree. Completely
And
agree.
I actually think if you want to point to a game that changed Baker Mayfield, I don't really think it got through his head. I don't think it really got through his head, that the Browns wouldn't be a playoff team last year after that Monday Night Football game against San Francisco. I think it didn't really get through his head until he really played the Pittsburgh Steelers the second time in Pittsburgh. When Myles Garrett was suspended, the Browns just got absolutely steamrolled by Duck Hodges. And when you lose and when you get gashed by a team getting led by Duck Hodges, I think that was his wake-up call, and he realized, I need to do something about this. I can't let us sit around and lose these winnable games. And I think that hopefully this season needs to come in with more fire, but with more work ethic and poise. So that's what I'm hoping this season. And I think the Browns hit about 10 wins on the season. So it'll be interesting to see it play out. And then we have another
A lot
team
of
in the
overs so far early
yeah, a lot
on.
of overs actually. It's I don't know where the unders are going to come in, but I guess we'll see. We got the
Right.
Broncos next at 7.5 wins. I don't know,
Absolutely over. One over
absolutely over.
100%.
Okay, okay, and
We've
okay,
talked about the Broncos a lot already,
we have.
and they got a lot better. That's as simple as that. I think
Hmm.
they're going to win 10 games. Nah, 9 games. I say they're a 9-7 football team.
Wow.
Whether that's good enough to make the playoffs, I think they'll win 9 or 10 games.
Okay. I mean I think at 7.5, I'll take the over, but barely. I think they win 8 games, maybe 9, depending on Drew Lock, how he can play. I mean, he has all the talent in the world around him now, so we'll see what he can do. But I think 8 wins is fair. They're in I mean, they're in a
They are
division
in a
with
really hard division.
a lot of decent teams. I mean, there's no bad team in that division. The Raiders aren't even that bad, and then you have the
Right.
Chargers and the Chiefs as well. So you have a pretty nice division. I think they can squeak out 8 games, 8 wins on the season.
We apologize. Probably will be a bit of a longer podcast. We'll go through the AFC a little quicker. The
Yeah.
next team on the list is the Houston Texans. Their over-under is 7.5 wins.
That's these over unders are really like they're pretty accurate. I mean I don't know how Deshaun Watson wins less than 8 games. I'm gonna go with 8 games. I'm gonna go with the slight over on that.
I'm gonna go. I would go push, but at 7.5, you can't
Yeah,
really
it's
push
seven
on
and a
seven and a
half.
half.
Yep.
Um, they got so much worse in the offseason. They didn't really have that great of a draft. I'm not gonna say they have no weapons because they have
Brandon Cooks.
Stills, they have Will Fuller, they have Brandon Cooks. Um, I agree with you. I think they're going to win 8 games, so I'm going to go slight over on the Houston Texans as well. I think their defense is a huge concern,
Oh,
particularly in the
it's
secondary.
a problem.
But Deshaun Watson always seems to find a way to win. He's a winner. He's a
Hmm.
proven winner, and I think Houston will win at least 8 games.
Okay. Yeah, no, I agree with that. I mean, Deshaun Watson's just too good for them to lose more than 8 games this season. And then the next team, we have the Indianapolis Colts at 8.5 wins in the over/under. That is an interesting line. Do you think they go over or under that?
I'm actually going to say the over, and I'm going to
Really?
make an early prediction. I think the Indianapolis Colts will win the AFC South this year.
Wow. Wow.
Um, Here's the thing:
Interesting.
Philip Rivers had an awful year with the Chargers last year. But I still think he's a
He
very
did.
capable quarterback. He went 12-4 the year before, so I think he's an upgrade from Jacoby Brissett. The Chargers were also the least penalized team in the NFL last year. They had the least amount of penalty yards. What does that tell you? They're a disciplined team. They're a well-coached team.
Okay.
All they need is a little bit of oomph and firepower.
Yeah.
And they got Philip Rivers. I forgot. They got a couple of other oomph players in free agency. Um,
I'm not sure off
and
the
I
top
think
of
they had
my
a solid
head,
draft.
but I
They
mean,
got Pittman.
okay. I mean, I know they got Jonathan Taylor in the draft.
I'm gonna go over. I think they're gonna be a surprise team this year.
Okay. I mean, I think they're going to go just under. I think they're going to hit 8 wins. I think Philip Rivers is one of those quarterbacks. Out of all these aging quarterbacks, I think he might be the one that's aging the worst. I mean, he had talent in LA, and it didn't work.
Hold on,
So,
hold that thought, real quick, Ryan. I'm
okay.
gonna stop you there. Hope
Mhm.
this might change your mind. Okay.
Why? Why? What?
So in free agency, they got DeForest Buckner, Philip
Okay.
Rivers, Xavier Rhodes, T.J. Carey, and Trey Burton.
Okay. So a lot of defense. They helped their secondary with TJ Carey and Xavier Rhodes. Um,
DeForest Buckner, who's
DeForest
an
Buckner is a
excellent D lineman.
fantastic D lineman. I want to say the over, but I've been saying the over on a lot of them, so I'm still going to go with the under. I mean, they have the potential to win
Okay.
10 or 11 games at least, but I have to go with the under on somebody, so I'm going to go with the under on the Colts. And then now we'll move on to another AFC South team. We have the Jacksonville Jaguars at 5 wins. What do you think? Over under on that?
Under completely. Jacksonville will be the worst team in the NFL this
Okay.
year. I'm not in on Gardner Minshew. I think he caught some teams by surprise just because nobody had any tape on him.
Mm.
Um, they lost AJ Boye, as you said.
Yep.
Their offense isn't terrible. They have Fournette. They have Chark, who had a good year last year.
Yep. Chark.
This is a rebuilding year. They're going to try and get Trevor Lawrence. I'm going under.
All right, and I agree with you. They're going to go under. They might win 3 games, might win even 2 games. They're going to be quite bad. Leonard Fournette, they did not pick up his option for his 5th season, so this will be his last season in Jacksonville, which is a really interesting decision. I don't know if that was the right one. I don't know why they're not keeping any of their young players at all. It seems like they keep trying to rebuild, but they never really break through. So Jacksonville's in a weird spot. Yeah, I think they're going to be the worst team in the NFL. And then now moving on to another one.
Yeah, moving on. I believe the next team on the list in the AFC is Kansas City.
Yep.
Their over-under is 11.5.
I'll take the over. I mean, it's not hard to pick the over on the Super Bowl champs. I think they win 13 games this year with Mahomes healthy. I forget. Oh, I forget who their first round pick was. Was it a linebacker? I believe.
Edwards-Helaire, the running
Oh, it
back.
was the running back. Yes, it was. Okay, that's actually a really interesting pick. I thought they should have gone J.K. Dobbins, but Edwards-Helaire, if he fits the system, could be an extremely, extremely good back in that offense. I think they win
Mm-hmm.
at least 12, probably 13 games. What do you think?
11.5 is a really close line because I think they're going
Really?
to win 11 or 12 games.
You think they would only
Yeah, I
win
agree. I
11
think
games?
their division got better.
It
Denver
did.
got better. The
Yep.
Chargers got better. Even the Raiders got a little bit better. They play a very tough schedule this year.
Mm-hmm.
I believe they have to go to New Orleans. They have to go to Denver, obviously, which is always a tough place to play. I believe they have to go to Buffalo as well. I could be wrong on that. I forgot if
Okay.
I'm right on that
But
one.
still, that's a tough division. You're right.
I'm actually going to go under. I think Kansas City will win 11 games exactly.
Okay.
I'm not going to say they have the Super Bowl hangover, but teams tend to underperform a little bit after a
Mm-hmm.
Super Bowl winning year. We saw it with the Patriots. I guess. Wait, who won the? Yeah, the Patriots in 2018 when they won the
Yep.
Super Bowl didn't really perform as well this year. I guess they won 12 games, but they lost in the wild card.
Yep.
So I'm actually gonna go under. I'm gonna say Kansas City wins exactly 11 games.
Okay. That's that's an interesting decision. I think they win more. I think they're just too overpowering on offense, and their secondary is quite solid. Probably, definitely top half of the league, maybe even top 10.
True.
So
True.
I think they're a pretty formidable team. Moving on to the Raiders, who are playing their first season in Las Vegas this year. They're at 7.5 wins, and I'm going to go under with the sole reason being their division is too good. I think if they're in other divisions, they might win 8 games, maybe even 9. But I think they're in a really tough division. I think they win 6, maybe probably 7 games. So I'm going to go under on that.
I'm in complete agreement with you.
Okay.
You stole the words right out of my mouth. They're in an incredibly hard division.
Mm,
Still not a very good defense.
no,
Derek
no.
Carr, very inconsistent. I think it's a 6-win football team this year.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. Going on to another AFC West team, we have the Los Angeles Chargers, who now have Justin Herbert leading the charge on at quarterback. They're also at 7.5 wins on the season. Trevor, what do you think there?
I'm gonna go slight over. I actually think I'm pretty sure Tyrod Taylor will start week 1. I
You
don't
think
think it's
so?
gonna be Herbert.
Okay, okay.
I do think Tyrod Taylor, who actually has a like a
Does
overall
he
winning
overall record?
percentage, over
Okay,
500 winning percentage in his NFL career.
okay.
Um, I think this is an 8 or 9-win football team. Tough division, but they have a ton of talent on
Wow.
defense. They have a very good offense. Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Eckler's going to have a very good year at running back for them.
Mm-hmm.
Hunter Henry, if he can stay healthy, is a pretty good tight end.
Yeah, he's top 6 or 7.
And I think Tyrod Taylor is about as an average of a quarterback as you can get. He's an average quarterback.
Sure,
Not
serviceable.
great, a little older, but
Yeah.
we'll see how Herbert pans out for them. I think the Chargers are an 8 or 9-win team. I'm gonna go over.
Okay. For me, I actually think that I went the over on Denver, right? So I think that Denver takes second place in this division. I think that they're going to force Herbert to start week 1. I think that's going to be a mistake, and
Really?
I think that they're going to have another strange season. I mean, as long as they aren't plagued by injuries, they have the potential to win as many games as anyone in the NFL because that roster is
Hmm.
so stacked. And while they are a playoff contending team, I still think that it's more likely that they lose some close games due to Herbert's inaccuracies and just rookie issues. I think they might win 7 games, so I'm going to go under on this one. A little bit of a surprise, but I mean, I just I don't know. I think that Herbert might struggle a little bit to start the season.
Yeah.
So
I don't want to play Chargers fans with this what if, but if only Tua would have fallen one more spot, this
mm,
team could have been real special this year.
yep,
So sorry, Chargers fans, you're stuck with Herbert. Who knows? He might be better than Tua. You never know,
you
but
never know. Maybe.
not likely.
Yeah.
Miami Dolphins. This is an interesting one. Their over under is 6 wins.
Wow. Miami Dolphins over under 6 wins. I will take the over on that. Thank you very much. I think the Miami Dolphins win 7 games this season on the dot. Again, we've talked about how their division is pretty weak. The Jets, the Patriots weaker, and Buffalo obviously being the top dog there. But I think Miami's much improved, complete overhaul. And if Tua can stay healthy, I think they might win more than 7 games. But I think 7 games is a pretty fair estimate, so I'm going to go over on that.
Um, 6 is tough.
Mm,
I don't know if I want to go push or over because
okay.
it's here's the thing. If Tua's as good as I think he will be, I'm gonna go over. I'm gonna go
Okay.
7 wins. So I'm
Then
gonna
do
go
it.
slight over.
Sure.
I've always been high on Tua. Miami doesn't have a great receiving core. Devontae
Monte
Parker can
Parker.
play.
Hmm.
They don't have great receivers yet.
No.
There's still a lot of holes on this roster, but they've gotten significantly better on defense. Byron Jones, Kyle Van Noy, Shaq Lawson.
Mm.
They got two obviously in the draft, so I think they'll be a 7-win team. Tempted to go push at 6, but I think they'll get in the weaker division. That'll put them over the top. They'll win seven
Yes, I
games.
think so. And I don't remember, but I don't remember what their other 2 draft picks were in the first round. I want to say they drafted an O
It was
lineman.
Igbahogmane, if I even said that name right, from Auburn.
Oh, yes. Okay, so they did
And they
get another
got
corner.
Austin Jackson, the tackle from
Okay,
USC,
so
which
they
I didn't
did go O
agree with that
line. I
pick.
was I was right. They did go O line. Whether or not that was, did you say you agree or disagree?
I disagree with the player, Austin
Okay.
Jackson.
It was the right
Great story,
position.
but it was the
We'll see
right
if the
position,
player.
right?
Okay. Okay. We'll see if the player works out. Whether or not it was the right player to choose, that will be that we will see that in the coming years. But I think Miami goes to 7 games. Moving on to the last team, or not the last team, the second to last team in the AFC East, the New England Patriots. Their over/under is 9 wins on the season. Do you think they hit that number?
Wow. No, not even close. I think this is a 5 or 6 win football team.
Wow.
Um, yeah, I just don't think they don't have the personnel to win 9 games in the NFL. They're just not a
Okay.
good team.
Okay. I mean, I think the Patriots, I also think they're going to go under on that. I mean, they just don't have the talent anymore. No matter how good you think Bill Belichick is, he can't game plan if he just doesn't have someone who can throw the ball. I mean, Jarrett Stidham, I watched him at Auburn, had some accuracy issues, isn't really mobile in the pocket. I mean, we'll see if Bill Belichick can change that, but I don't really think he will be able to. So I'm going to go a firm under on that. I think they might even hit a floor of 5, maybe 6 wins. We'll see. And then moving on to
Here
the
we
yeah
moving
this
on to
time.
the
Yeah, you can go. I'm sorry.
I believe the New York Jets at 6.5 over under.
Yep. Okay, so 6.5. I'm going to go. I'm going to go just under. I think they had 6 wins this season. I think they have the same season they had last season. Or did they have 7 wins last season?
They
Either at
won
6 or 7.
7 games last year.
Okay,
Yeah.
I think they go 6. I don't think they improved that much. I mean, they got Mekhi Becton, who has all the potential in the world, but also has the lowest floor out of any of the top 4 O linemen in the draft. So I'm going to go
Hmm.
slight under on this one just because I question the ability of Sam Darnold to be consistent. Uh, and just make plays down the field. So I'm not really sold on him yet. So I'm going to go slight under on this one.
I'm gonna go firm over.
Wow. Okay.
I'm
Really?
gonna go 8 wins. I'm going eight
Whoa.
wins for the Jets, and
Really
there's a few reasons
interesting.
why. There's a
Okay.
few reasons why.
Okay.
I'm going 8 wins for the Jets. One, we keep saying it. AFC East got weaker.
It did. Yes.
Um, Two, Sam Darnold last year. People forget Sam Darnold as a starter last year went
Mm.
7-6. He had mono for 3 games, and that team was not good. They had a really bad line, really bad everything. Gase obviously is still the head coach, so we'll see if they can work together. I think they got a little bit better in the draft and free agency. They got Becton. They don't have a great receiving core, but again, I'm a little bit higher on Darnold than you are. I think the Jets
Yeah.
are going to be an 8-win football team. They
Wow.
still have Le'Veon Bell in the backfield, and people forget they went. Darnold was 7-6 as a starter last year, and like they won 7 football games, and they didn't
Sure.
get worse. And if Darnold stays healthy, why can't they win 8 football games?
Okay. I mean, maybe you're right. I don't know. I mean, they had a pretty soft out of division schedule last year.
Fair,
They played the
fair.
Giants, they played the Jags, who they lost to. I mean, a lot of bad teams. They played the Redskins, they played the Bengals. I mean, they played a lot of bad teams, and they lost to those teams as well. Uh, I mean, they beat the Dolphins by 1 at the last second. I don't know. I feel like there were some. I feel like that 7-9 win total is kind of skewed a little bit, but we will see if they can live up to your expectations next season. Um,
I'm
now we
going
go.
firm over 8 wins.
Okay,
8 wins.
okay, we'll see. I think 6, but I don't know. We'll see what we'll see what the Jets can do. Going on to the Steelers, their over unders at 9 wins. Keep in mind they do have Big Ben back this season with
This
that
is tough for me. This
really
is
nice
really,
defense.
really tough.
Yeah, what do you
Really
think?
tough. I'm gonna go push. I think
Okay.
they'll win 9 games. Big Ben is 38, aging.
Hmm.
Um, their receiving core is okay. It's not great. Juju
Outside of
Smith,
Juju, eh,
not that good.
yeah.
Their defense is excellent. Don't get me wrong, but I just don't think an aging 38-year-old Ben Roethlisberger changes this team.
Okay.
Their division got better. I could argue Roethlisberger is the 4th best quarterback in this division. I won't. He's not. You could argue it. He's not. I won't go that far.
Okay.
But I agree. I just don't think he's going to be that big of a. He'll be a difference, but he won't be that big of a difference. The division got better. I'm going to go push. They win 9 games.
Okay. I'm gonna go with a slight under. I think they win 8 games. While they did get Chase Claypool, another receiver out of Notre Dame, I believe. So they did help him there with his receivers. I think Big Ben is older. It's been a long time since he's played football. I don't know how much he can
Mm-hmm.
get back, and I think people are overhyping. I think James Conner. I really don't think he's that special after watching him last year. Gets injured a bunch. I don't know how explosive he really is. Um, I think the defense might slightly regress. I think they overperformed a little bit last year, and yeah, so I just think they go 8 wins with a tougher division, but um, it'll be interesting to see. And then the next team we
I believe we
have.
only have one more team.
Oh yeah, we have one more.
The
You are
last
right.
one.
It's the Tennessee Titans, right? At an over
Tennessee
under of
Titans, 8.5.
8.5 wins. Trevor, do they go
Um,
over or under?
for the sake of their 9-7 streak, I hope they go over.
Okay.
Um, this is actually a really tough one for me too because I don't necessarily think they got better in the offseason. They lost
Mm,
Conklin. They lost Jarrell Casey on the D line. I know you and I have a good friend who will try and explain to us how that will help them. I don't really get that.
I
I'm
don't
not
either.
super high on Tannehill. I think he just kind of had a hot streak, I guess.
Hmm.
He really wasn't anything special in the playoffs. Derrick Henry put that team on his back and won them 2 playoff games.
Yes, it did.
I'm going to go the soft under. I think they'll win 8 games.
Wow, and I agree with everything that you said, but just because I had the Jaguars and the Colts losing so many games, I mean, and the Texans also going 8-8, I think I have to go over on Tennessee. I think I have them winning the division, although I think the Colts and the Texans have the potential to win the division. I think Tennessee is the safest bet. And the most consistent team out of all of these right now. So I'm going to go over. I think they win 9, maybe even 10 games, depending on I don't know.
Gotcha.
There have been rumors they might get Clowney. I don't think that'll be true, but if they do, that would be really interesting to
If they do
watch.
get Clowney, that might change
Yeah,
my
that'll
pick
be
a little
interesting to
bit. But as
watch.
of right now, with that roster, I think they win 8.
Yeah, no, okay, that's fair. So we have a really interesting AFC this year. A lot of close divisions, a lot of different divisions from last year. A lot of changes going on.
A
So
lot of teams getting better for the most part.
yes, for the most part, with the
Some
exception
got
of New
worse, but
England.
a lot of teams got better.
I think with the exception of New England, I think you could argue most of these teams improved.
Yeah, I mean, you could argue that
Except for Houston. Houston also
Houston
got
and
worse.
maybe even Jacksonville, I guess. But other than that,
They're
you're
already,
right.
yeah, but yes.
Right.
So yeah, no, I think that concludes everything. I don't know if there's any final thoughts you have, or if you want to wrap it up, then you can go ahead.
No, I guess we just talked about the NFL for an hour once again. That damn NFL, man. We're always talking about them. No,
Yeah.
We're going to be doing the NFC over under win totals on the next podcast episode. Look for that
In
most
about
likely
two
in two
weeks.
weeks. Yeah,
Yeah.
probably in 2 weeks. Every other Sunday, we kind of dove off of that after the NFL draft special, but we'll keep every other Sunday
Yep.
as of right now. Yeah, hand it off to you to close us out, Ryan.
All right, sounds good. Yeah, we will be doing every other Sunday until these sports actually start opening up, the major sports, and
Mm-hmm.
then we will go every Sunday. But yeah, thanks everyone for watching, and we hope everyone enjoys this whole podcast. Sorry it ran a little bit long, but yeah, we'll be doing the NFC next week. So I'll see you guys there.